right, welcome into Surviving Paradise, the podcast that takes a sometimes serious, oftentimes humorous look at the claim by Jehovah's Witnesses that they are living in a modern day spiritual paradise. I'm your host on this crazy show, Stacy Bauman, former elder, ministerial servant, and a kid raised as one of Jehovah's Witnesses in the 70s and 80s. As I do, there can be some triggering information here, depending on where you are on your journey in or out of God's only true organization. So just note that nothing said here, shared here, it's ever meant to offend. Sarcasm, humor, experiences, and observations are all mine. Welcome in. I have long said that Jehovah's Witnesses have chosen a path of ignorance. My comments on the chosen path of ignorance is one of my favorite episodes of this show. It was also a big part of my tiny little ebook on the subject that I wrote many years ago. If you're interested in any of that, incidentally, please see a past podcast episode on Chosen Path of Ignorance, including my own take on all things cognitive dissonance. It's a fascinating subject and one that comes up weekly here. You just can't get away from it as new listeners struggle to understand how someone they love continues to associate with Jehovah's Witnesses, particularly the last few years. I used to marvel at the incredibly stupid subjects that would find their way into the Watchtower and Awake magazines, both of which, let's face it, have changed dramatically the past 15 years or so. Some of us are old enough to remember pushing subscriptions to the Watchtower and Awake. You remember the little blue and yellow slips we would sign people to, and they would get their spiritual food in their mailbox wrapped in a brown paper package and just filled with the kind of wisdom you can only obtain from the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Who remembers some of those life-changing topics that have no doubt completely changed the trajectory of your life experience? Here are a few examples, just a few, of what a Jehovah's Witness could look forward to as they endured the misery of the last days that never end. Here's one from the Awake of March 22nd, 1988, pages 29 and 30, under the title, Rude Awakening in Watching the World. We were told this, quote, "A 66-year-old man has discovered the cause of his leg pain. Snoring." As recounted in the New England Journal of Medicine by Dr. Neil Shear of Toronto, the man had gone to his doctor complaining of leg pain. Although given pain pills, he was awakened 2 nights later by a sharp pain in the calf of his right leg, caused by a kick from his wife. "Don't kick me there. That's just where my leg hurts," the man told his wife. Her reply, "You were snoring again, and that is where I always kick you to stop it." End quote. The spiritual feast given to Jehovah's Witnesses in the March 22nd Awake of 1988, page 29. Apparently, we all needed to know that a wife was kicking her husband in the leg because he was snoring. It's only available at the spiritual table of Jehovah. Or how about one of my favorites? That time Jesus told the fellas that they were a disgrace for having a vasectomy. From the Watchtower of June 15th, 1999, pages 27 and 28, questions from readers, my kind of people, we were informed of this from the faithful slave, quote, "But Christians who are not facing such an unusual and distinct risk would certainly want to use soundness of mind and shape their thinking and deeds by God's esteem for reproductive potential. This would reflect sensitivity to scriptural indications. Yet, what if it became publicly known that a Christian blithely disregarded God's evaluations? Would not others doubt whether he or she was a good example, having a reputation of making decisions in harmony with the Bible? Such a disturbing blemish on one's reputation could, of course, affect a minister's being qualified for special privileges of service, though that might not be so if one had in ignorance had this procedure performed. There it is, end quote. Gents, stay away from your nuts, or you can't be an elder. Watchtower, 1999, June 15th. Jehovah takes your testicles very seriously. You might remember that Jesus, at one point in the Bible, counseled Peter about his vasectomy. Nothing brings you closer to your apostles, you remember the original governing body, than discussing how they can handle the family jewels. I find myself wondering why Jesus didn't initiate that whole no beard rule right there, along with an illustration maybe on manscaping that included how to shear sheep or something when taking care of the hair on your balls. I could keep going. But such spiritual wisdom from the faithful and discreet slave, courtesy of the Watchtower and Awake magazines. You can't beat the type of insight we get from heaven. And hell, how about one more? Finally, there is this nugget of wisdom. This really should have been a greatest hits episode, but here we are from the Awake of November 8th, 1973 on page 12 under the aptly titled article, I'm sorry, ladies, Are You Ever Plagued with Loose Bowels? Yes, Awake 1973, November 8th, where we're told, quote, the man had enjoyed a large Mexican dinner. From soup to nuts, as the saying goes. End quote. Great writing here. Back to the quote, but before the night was over, he had a violent case of diarrhea. His bowels had become inflamed because of highly seasoned food to which he was not accustomed. His physician, a noted nutritionist, prescribed bed rest and nothing to eat but diluted milk and yeast for the next 2 days. This sufficed for the patient to recover. You, of course, realize that diarrhea of various sorts has plagued mankind for a long time. The Bible tells of the shipwrecked Apostle Paul curing an old man of dysentery or diarrhea while on the island of Malta 1900 years ago. If you plan to tour abroad, watch out. As many as 50% of Americans who stay abroad 2 or more months have a bout with diarrhea, end quote. I guess only Americans need to worry about the screaming dirties. Back to the Awake of 73, quote, because it so commonly afflicts tourists, it is known in some countries as tourista, or the globetrotter's peril, or the trots. God, I love that. The trots. I've got a case of the trots for short. Yes, there are many causes of diarrhea to avoid. There are also a number of remedies to choose from should you or your children be plagued with loose bowels. End quote. The Watchtower and Awake magazines, the kind of wisdom you would expect, is regularly dispensed from the throne of Jesus Christ. The faithful and oh so discreet slave, including information on our bowels, diarrhea, skid marks, and more, you might be shunning a family member. But you can always count on the future king priest to spend millions of dollars to make sure you're aware of the dangers of, how did they put it here, eating a large Mexican dinner, and of course, the subsequent wiping you're going to do. It all reminds me of a quote. All of this. I know you're shocked, but I think this quote summarizes it well. It's from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who said this, quote, "Nothing in the world is more dangerous, maybe even runny, I don't know, than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity." End quote. I agree, Doc. In fact, I'd like to steal the quote and that verbiage. Conscientious stupidity, indeed, has always been available via the Watchtower and Awake magazines. And trust me, I can supply many, many more examples as we do semi-weekly on this show. However, folks, are you ready for this? They did it again. We have an incredible example of conscientious stupidity this week on the front page of the only website powered by Holy Spirit. I marvel at what these men and the writing committee do to themselves in New York, as well as the complete lack of creativity. Is it any wonder when you see the article I'm about to share that they are aggressively moving to video presentations and movies? You can't go wrong, after all, by rolling out a hunky Australian Jesus. Even if you do struggle trying to imagine him talking about diarrhea with that Australian accent. With all of that said, the governing body this past week thought it was a wise idea to go after the world's most popular sport, even as the entire planet is captivated by a bunch of men kicking a ball around on a large field. Yes, if you didn't catch it, that's right. The 11 would-be kings have captured the attention of the world by running a digital article on their website titled, are you ready? Quote, "Can the World Cup really unite people? What does the Bible say?" This is getting too easy, folks. It's painful for me to even talk about this. Yes, it's on the front page. It's the headline article. I had some wonderful people DM me that they saw it too via our Instagram page. What? Wait a minute. What? What does the Bible say about World Cup soccer? Are you sure? And I gotta tell you, folks, I'm here for it. I struggle some weeks to talk about these guys. This one was easy. I mean, I found myself on pins and needles. I can't wait to hear how the Israelites took a break from enslaving women and stoning people for picking up sticks on Sunday mornings to, I don't know, play a little soccer. I'm sure it's in the Bible, right? I can't begin to imagine how that looked while they were wandering during the Exodus. No wonder they were bitching about water. They were dehydrated. I mean, does manna have enough carbs to keep you running up and down the field for 90 plus minutes in the heat of the Sinai Peninsula? I'm sure this article is going to tell us. Indeed, what does the Bible say about World Cup soccer? Who in New York is greenlighting this stuff? Who? Raise your hand. But at least we've moved on from things like our nuts and vasectomies and screaming dirties and diarrhea and stuff. This week, we get Jehovah, Jesus, and the faithful slave's view on soccer. Here we go. Prepare yourself now for words of wisdom from the faithful and discreet slave. as we look at an immediate example of the type of wisdom Jehovah's Witnesses are not only taking in, but are sharing with other people around the world. This life-changing digital article starts with the following comment. Quote, an estimated 5 billion people are expected to watch the FIFA World Cup. Many feel that such sporting events have the potential to accomplish much more than just unite people as spectators. In a quote from Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa, they share, quote, sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does, end quote, Nelson Mandela. In another quote, quote, football unites in hope. It unites in joy. It unites in passion. It unites in love, as well as in diversity, end quote. Gianni Infantino, president of FIFA. Can the World Cup or any other sporting event achieve such lofty goals? Is there any hope for peace and unity? End quote. And now it's time for my weekly apology for my laughter. I am only human, people. The truth is, my apology is empty. I'm not apologizing. With billions of people living below the poverty line, diseases ravaging mankind, endless wars taking lives, and even Jehovah's Witnesses themselves, some of them sitting in prisons around the globe. The 11 would-be kings want to warn us that soccer will never bring peace and unity. And to that, all I have to say is that there is more unity in a soccer stadium than at a Jehovah's Witness baby shower filled with JW women who are typically gossiping about everyone that isn't invited as they get hammered on the white wine being served. But never mind. Don't act like it doesn't happen. Incidentally, I guess they don't see the irony in claiming, quote, 5 billion people will watch the FIFA World Cup, end quote. All the while, 5 billion people are clearly, I don't know, united in their love for soccer, even as this same group of men roll out their summer conventions that won't sniff those kinds of numbers in the audience attendance. 5 billion versus what? But by all means, give us your take on what unites people. As if the ironies aren't already piling up in this article, you have to love how the governing body points to other, look at that, worldly, non-believing, non-Jehovah's Witness, imperfect men and their quotes and comments on passion, love, and unity, and claiming they're all misleading. Even as the governing body themselves, I don't know, imperfect men, roll out new light to make up for all the times they've been misleading. You know, beards, clinking glasses, blood and stuff. And from the outset of this thing, I'm exhausted already. But how about one more? I'm sorry, because I always love it when they use quotes by a noted person, a famous person, a celebrity, a politician, to show they're imperfect, erroneous men, only to use that same exact imperfect, erroneous man and one of his quotes to support their own governing body agenda. For example, Nelson Mandela. He is just so wrong this week about soccer and sport having the power to unite people. But hey, that same Nelson Mandela, he's also a really great guy who gets things right. Like this time, from the Watchtower of August 1st, 1999 on page 6, quote, "The Creator will soon bring about the equality that humans crave. Until then, we can at least take steps to curb the scourge of inequality that affects us and our families." Note this, as as Nelson Mandela, former president of South Africa, observed, "It is what we make out of what we have, not what we have, not what we are given, that separates one person from another," end quote. Yeah, history seems to verify his comment. But more importantly, any witness will recognize this type of mind-melding stupidity. Would you look at that? Nelson Mandela is wrong this week about sports and unity, but Nelson Mandela is also right about unity and stuff, as long as he agrees with the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. They have a long history of lifting quotes, misquoting, losing context, and very selective character confirmation, don't they? Okay. Let's get back to the trap, the evil trappings and misleading world of soccer. How dare humanity agree or enjoy the fact that soccer, the sport, unites people globally? I mean, nothing says unity like being, I don't know, the most popular sport on planet Earth, with an estimated 3.5 rabid fans, billions, by the way, 3.5 billion rabid fans. Its popularity is widespread. Why? Because it only requires a ball. Zero equipment needed. Both genders can play soccer, boys and girls. It is by far the most popular sport on the globe, including Europe, Africa, Asia, and even the Americas. In other words, you and I today, tomorrow, can visit someone in Kenya, in Africa, drop a soccer ball on the field, and wow, look at that. You make new friends and play soccer with someone on the other side of the planet. You know, united in, of all things, some fun and exercise. How about some fun facts about the sport that will never unite mankind according to the governing body? This one's interesting. How about this? The FIFA organization currently has 211 member states, 211, whereas the United Nations, you recognize them, only has 203 countries in the world. And you might remember, incidentally, that Jehovah's Witnesses were members of the United Nations at one point, the NGO program, otherwise known as the scarlet-colored wild beast that, you know, rips apart religion, is very demonic and in Revelation and stuff. Oopsie. But please, tell us again how the United Nations has less countries and is less united than soccer, FIFA, because soccer apparently will unite no one, according to the governing body. How about this fun fact? The Italian term tifosi describes a group of supporters of a sports team. It literally means those infected by typhus, because their fanaticism is like a fever. I don't know, sounds like they're coming together in this sickness. How about this weird one? The Vatican has its own soccer team. However, it's not a member of the FIFA. Looks like they're going to escape false religion in Garmageddon. I don't know. How about this? This one's just interesting to me. The longest soccer game lasted over 3 days. And for me, when I learned that fact, 3 days, a soccer game that went over 3 days, yeah, I immediately thought this must be prophetic. because this matches the old district convention timelines for Jehovah's Witnesses. Oddly enough, sometimes held in soccer stadiums. The governing body can use those soccer stadiums to tell the rest of us how these buildings and the games played there will never unite people. No irony there. Thanks for the use of the soccer stadium. Okay, but soccer. World Cup soccer and stuff this week. All courtesy of a hyperlink on their website. But as always, this doesn't really have anything at all to do with World Cup soccer. This has to do with another worldwide event confirming that only the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses can bring that unity to the world that soccer can only wish for. You see, the article continues with some spiritual finger food when it says, quote, "A source of unity" is the subheading. The comment, "Although international sporting events like the World Cup provide enjoyable entertainment, these events cannot provide lasting unity. Instead, they often showcase the divisive attitudes and actions that the Bible said would mark the time period called the last days," end quote. And there it is. You're just enjoying a non-violent sporting event, for the most part, not going to get into the hooligans, where people from all over the world come together with their family and friends, parents, grandparents, kids, to enjoy watching the world's best athletes compete against each other. By the way, side point, incidentally, our guy, the Apostle Paul, he used to lean into athletics and competition and contest a lot when he was writing his Bible books. And he was inspired by Jesus, right? Right. But back to the comment, claiming that soccer cannot provide lasting unity and following that up with a comment like this from the same paragraph of this digital nugget, quote, "Instead, they often showcase the divisive attitudes and actions that the Bible said would mark the time period called the last days," end quote. Paul uses contest and athletics to prove Christianity, but the governing body uses contests and athletics to prove that the Bible says that it's always divisive. You be the judge. It's also next level. Even soccer gives all non-Jehovah's Witnesses an opportunity, I guess, to show their personal love for Satan the devil. He's the divisive one, after all. I don't think the rest of the planet would agree with the 11 guys in upstate New York, but here we are. Here is what the rest of the world says about soccer's ability to unite people. And you'll notice it kind of conflicts with the governing body. From the website soccerwithoutborders.org, bringing people, particularly kids, together to play soccer, we are told, quote, "On soccer fields around the world, young people come together from different cultures, backgrounds, beliefs, and worldviews, showcasing soccer as a universal language that fosters peace," end quote. Wait a minute, I'm sorry. The article on the front page of the only website that Jesus writes to, it says that soccer often showcases, quote, "divisive attitudes and actions the Bible said would mark the time period of the last days," end quote. But I don't know. Soccer Without Borders says it fosters peace. Let's continue. Quote, "At Soccer Without Borders, we exercise peace in practice every day. We know that soccer is more than a game. It is a powerful tool for cross-cultural understanding. Once the ball is in play, differences begin to fade, replaced by teamwork, communication, and a shared purpose. This sense of belonging and mutual respect is at the heart of our mission, fostering inclusion and equity on and off the pitch." This relational exchange between individuals and teammates on the pitch is part of how Soccer Without Borders practices peace. And we extend this practice to global travel and cultural exchange as well. End quote. Well, I gotta tell you, I know World Cup soccer, Soccer Without Borders, your local high school soccer team, on it goes. I know they're not all the same, but I don't know, it doesn't sound all that awful to me. And now I'm offended if I'm a Jehovah's Witness. How dare that Soccer Without Borders, FIFA, or anybody else disagree with the governing body? The governing body says that the World Cup showcases divisive attitudes and actions just like the Bible said it would. But, well, from Media Magazine, in the article More Than a Game, The Global Power of Soccer, the author says this, quote, "Soccer is much more than just a sport. It is a universal cultural force that builds community, shapes identity, and reflects social and political realities worldwide. From local neighborhoods to the grandest international tournaments, soccer connects people of all backgrounds and ages. Having played soccer for most of my life, I've experienced firsthand how the game fosters friendships and brings people together beyond differences in language, culture, or geography. Soccer serves as a vital tool for community building in many parts of the world. In places affected by poverty, conflict, or displacement, the sport offers an accessible way for youth to find purpose, joy, and social support. Donnelly discusses how soccer has been used in development and peace efforts, helping to bridge divides and create safe spaces for young people to grow. The communal aspect of soccer fosters connections that transcend social barriers." End quote. We've got a conflict here on the website. From the 11 men who undoubtedly have never played soccer at any level, to the people who bring people together via soccer. And I mean, wow. David Splain, Mark Sanderson, and the fellas weren't kidding when they said that the World Cup showcases the worst of the worst, right? Many of which features players who had grown up in poverty, playing a game that teaches them camaraderie and joy, transcends language and fake map borders, coming together to play the game at the highest level. I'm just sick watching the World Cup, thinking of the satanic things on display in every soccer stadium. It doesn't take much digging to find out that while ancient civilizations like Greece, Rome, and Mesoamerica have played various ball and kicking games for many centuries, the modern game of soccer, as we know it and see it today, originated mostly in the 19th century in England. Wait a minute. Did I say that right? The 19th century is where modern soccer came from? Wait a minute. The 19th century is very special. Yeah, that 19th century. You remember, the one that Jehovah's Witnesses claim produced the founder of their religion, Chuck Russell. And now this is all starting to make sense to me. Did Satan the devil kick off? See what I did there? Did Satan the devil kick off this whole soccer thing in the 19th century as a perfect way to display man's divisive spirit, as their website article says this week? I mean, Jehovah, Jesus, and Jehovah's Witnesses, they got Chuck Russell in the 19th century, and Satan countered with soccer. But look, This gets very confusing when you consider that Chuck Russell, he of pyramid measuring fame, was himself also saying stuff like this during the 19th century from the Watchtower article, What is Truth, from July 7th, 1879, where Chuck said, quote, "A truth presented by Satan himself is just as true as a truth stated by God." End quote. Is it now, Chuck? Would you like to retract from your throne in heaven when you hear this? Last I checked, you guys yourselves called Satan the slanderer and the father of the lie. But not to be overlooked is the fact that our guy Satan, well, he was also clearly the father of soccer. According to this week's article on the website, apparently that's the case, as he promotes divisive, evil things in these last days, quoting the governing body. And thank you to the World Cup. Satan may have misled mankind. He also invented things like the corner kick and goalies. This super insightful digital finger food continues with the following information. In case you can't find it, it's on the front page. That incidentally just abruptly kind of ends this article. It's like 3 paragraphs long. Not a lot of substance here. Like, filling yourself up on tofu and cotton candy. Still feel a little empty by the end. But here is how the governing body sums up their comments on whether soccer and the World Cup can truly unite people. The subheading reads, quote, "Real hope for world unity." It continues, "The Bible contains a real hope for global unity. It promises that all people on earth will be united under a heavenly government called the Kingdom of God. The King of that kingdom, Jesus Christ, will ensure that there will be peace worldwide. The Bible states the righteous will flourish and peace will abound. He will rescue the poor who cry for help from oppression, and from violence he will rescue them." End quote. The comment continues back to the quote, "Even today, Jesus' teachings have already united millions of people in 239 lands. They have learned to let go of hatred. To find out more, read the series of articles with the title Breaking the Cycle of Hatred." End quote. Article on World Cup soccer comes to an abrupt end. What in the world is all this hatred they're talking about? How did we go from enjoying soccer played at its highest level by the best soccer players in the world in FIFA World Cup to somehow being summed up with breaking cycles of, how did they say it here? Hatred, oppression, and violence. I don't know. I see a ball. I see some guys having a good time. Each is trying to win. And this is the formula that has been in place for this organization for well over a century. This is where they move things from the utterly absurd and the utterly funny to the utterly disturbing within just 2 sentences. Because this stupid article about World Cup soccer exposes how they turn the minds of really good people into complete mush. I'm not going to get into what crowds of people may do when they're confined in a close space, or fans and how rabid they could be at any sport, nor their fervor, nor the things that happen in stadiums. That happens all the time, folks. I, for one, am a huge American football fan. I've been to the games. I've seen the fights and the trash talking. Goes on everywhere. Incidentally, I've also seen this at Pop Warner and Little League games in your community. And I frankly, took part in a lot of this when I was a athlete as a kid playing sports. But I'm not going to go into all of those things for two reasons. One, they don't go into this in this article. And then second, the obvious reasons. We have already addressed how a person should act when enclosed in a small space with other people. And not just people, but even animals. When we got the story in the Bible and from the faithful slave about my guy Noah, from the Watchtower of December 15th, 1975, page 752, paragraph 1, in the aptly titled article, "The Kind of Persons Approved for God's New Order," we are told how to act in confined spaces, whether they be boxes filled with the animal kingdom or a soccer stadium, when we were told, quote, "During the cataclysmic end of the ancient world of ungodly people, living conditions inside an ark loaded with animals and birds may not have been the most agreeable for Noah and his family for more than an entire lunar year. And yet those 8 human souls survived. Thus, they were able to give a righteous new start to the human family." End quote. Yes. Yes, people. I'm not going into hatred with fans at a soccer game or anything else because they didn't in this article, and we already know how to act. Get your act together if you're in confined spaces, including in a sporting event like the World Cup. Lean into my guy Noah. It always comes back to him. The same guy that was knee-deep in animal and human urine and feces for over a year, taking deep breaths as he shoveled poo-poo out the window, gritting his teeth after 500 years without sex with Mrs. Noah. He survived and got a new start, so the governing body clearly wanted to steer clear of even mentioning the rowdy fans in this article on the World Cup because they've already given us an example of how to act when locked in tight spaces with groups of people or animals, rooting for the day you can just get the hell out of a floating box. But none of this is the point of such conscientiously stupid articles. The point for Jehovah's Witnesses and anyone that reads this is that once again, you and I must stay away from the World Cup if you want to be a good Jehovah's Witness. As the final section of that article says, a group of people in 239 lands who have let go of hatred. I mean, go read this article. Where did all this hatred talk come from in the last paragraph? Why? How did we go from World Cup soccer to hatred? Furthermore, the entire message regarding the World Cup and soccer is contained in the sentence that says, quote, "The Bible contains a real hope for global unity. It promises that all people on earth will be united under a heavenly government called the Kingdom of God." End quote. There it is. That's the message. It could be soccer. It could be a candy bar. It could be anything. But it always comes back to them. And for those not in the know, that heavenly government they allude to after all this hatred that soccer causes will partially be ruled by, you guessed it, the 11 men on the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses who wrote this article about the dangers of World Cup soccer. Anyone who has been a witness knows that these guys will get that message across on any subject they attempt to tackle in their literature, in their website, or in their videos. Every article, every point, every foundation of everything they do points back to them. But imagine my reaction when I went back into their treasure chest of Watchtower library comments on, of all things, the World Cup and soccer, to find some of the funniest stuff you will encounter this week. Let's start here. From the 1986 Awake, November 8th, page 15, the article is titled, World Cup Soccer, Just a Sport? The subheading, An Escape from Reality. Quote, like drugs and alcohol, sports have been used as an escape from reality. Mexican psychoanalyst Armando Barraguet referred to Mexico's current difficult economic situation and said that to Mexican people, the World Cup games served as an escape from the problems at hand. Mexico City's daily El Universal claims that commercial and government television have tried to convince the people that the victory of the 11 energetic youths, Mexico's soccer team, is national vengeance against so much calamity that has befallen us. Thus, the World Cup Championship is said to have elevated the morale of a people stricken in its pride and its hopes. Yes, for many people, soccer is much more than a sport. Note this, it is their weekly dose of dreams and illusions. End quote. No, don't do it. Oh, no. Did the faithful and discreet slave just comment on things like dreams and illusions in weekly doses? Did they just say that World Cup soccer in this 86 Awake is nothing more than an escape from reality? Dreams and illusions, escapes from reality. From a group of rotating men that have been pitching a paradise Earth since 1935. They have misled millions of people in escaping reality by telling them that they were going to ride around on pet giraffes with perfect skin, have a seaside mansion, and it was all coming any second now. The same men who have printed billions of publications featuring illustrations of people hugging their dead grandparents and riding off into the sunset on their elephants, that have teased Jehovah's Witnesses in print, in books, in magazines, in videos, with the possibility of inhabiting other planets in outer space, who have told us we're going to get to hang out with King David in the near future, living forever and ever and ever, sustained on the perfect fruit baskets. What kind of balls, vasectomies aren't allowed, what kind of balls does it take to claim that a harmless sport, soccer, is nothing more than, how did they put this here in the 86 Awake article? Quote, a weekly dose of dreams and illusions, end quote. No other group on earth sets the dinner table with a weekly dose of dreams and illusions like the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses. Everything they have sold us and the current witnesses loyally going to Kingdom Halls is nothing more than pure fantasy. It is all a weekly dose of dreams and illusions. Starting off with the fact that this entire organization was concocted by a guy who was measuring Egyptian pyramids, followed up by a drunk judge, And then the guys that followed those two reinforcing it all 3 times a week as they drug us into kingdom halls and bashed our brains out with dreams and illusions. But somehow, the unity you see at a soccer game with people from different countries hugging and kissing, bringing their grandkids, enjoying the victories, consoling each other in defeat, somehow all of that is much, much worse than the dreams and illusions a Jehovah's Witness gets weekly at their local Kingdom Hall. Complete and utter insanity. But I can't resist one more for good measure. Because like most everything else on earth, everything you and I see and come into contact with, might enjoy, brings us happy, whatever, it's all demonized anyway. It's all demonized. Are you already a soccer fan? Are you ready for what I'm about to tell you? Not me, but the governing body. From the Awake of July 8th, 1989, page 28, in Watching the World, the subheading, "Oh no, soccer voodoo." We are told, quote, "What secret weapon does the Bahia Sports Club, winner of Brazil's 1988 Union Cup for soccer, use to guarantee victory? Mysticism," reports the Brazilian magazine Veja. "Before each game, the team's masseur and dresser prepares a bath of lavender sap and another of garlic for the players. If I forget to prepare this bath, the players demand it," he says. Also, before the players run out to the playing field, he places a clove of garlic in each sock. Ooh, true. Voodoo does not win the game, the masseur admits, but it does have a strong psychological effect and also serves to frighten the opposing players. End quote. Soccer voodoo. The Awake of 1989, July 8th, if you'd like to look it up. I mean, I thought soccer could never unite people, that it's a tool of Satan. And sure enough, it's reinforced by the fact that it's all demonized, at least in Brazil. The only thing I got out of this nugget from the Watchtower Library, produced by Holy Spirit by Jesus himself, was how bad, how absolutely hideous the soccer players in Brazil's feet must have smelled after running around for almost 2 hours and mushing garlic cloves after the lavender bath into their toes, toenails, feet, and socks. That must have smelled good. It would have scared me too. That must have been demonic. Foot sweat and garlic. It may not keep the demons away, but it will your significant other. Don't try this at home. It doesn't work. And it's stuff like this, all available in the Watchtower Library of Jehovah's Witnesses, that make me truly, on some strange level, just love the guys in upstate New York. Before I go, I'm going to beat a dead horse with one more example from the same Watchtower Library, one that struck me as ironic, or maybe it was prophetic. I felt the Holy Spirit as I read it. It comes to us from the Awake of May 22nd, 1982, in the series Why the Violence in Sports, pages 4 through 8, where the leaders and writers of Awake magazine, Jehovah's Witnesses, seem to admit to knowing the formula for keeping people invested in their brand of messaging. It says this, quote, "What is the end result of big business involvement in sports? Increased violence. Why? Because sports now require vast incomes from its spectators and television channels. Wait a minute, I'm getting uncomfortable. Back to the quote. Quote, that means the consumer has to be converted into a sports addict in order to guarantee a constant, vast inflow of cash, end quote. I'm getting uncomfortable again. Back to the quote. How is this accomplished? By supplying what the customer demands. Excitement. And excitement usually means violence. Thus, the self-sustaining cycle is established. The coaches have to teach and demand violence because the fans, an abbreviation for fanatics, want it. And the business moguls want their profits. And the media, to boost their own sales, alternate between adulation and accusation. This is sounding familiar. Quote, caught in the middle of this vicious circle are the players who have to come up with the goods. Action, excitement, and violence, end quote. Wait a minute. Interesting description. And there you have it. This little cycle that they just defined for us in this Awake magazine from 1982, this might just explain things, I don't know, like movie studios, video production, and large-scale media campuses. It also, in a weird way, lends itself to the ironic fact that we have had 2 separate JW broadcast episodes where members of the governing body got on camera and addressed the concerns of witnesses that wrote in about the violence depicted in their movies and how it was impacting people, particularly their kids. Human psychology proves you have to continue to provide something extreme to keep your audience captive. So let's show them some special effects featuring, I don't know, CGI angels with swords and bows and a bunch of dead bodies and stuff burning and stuff. That'll hook them. They literally tell on themselves. It's just that Jehovah's Witnesses aren't paying attention. And cognitive dissonance and that chosen path of ignorance. So, I've truly said enough about this ridiculously stupid article on the front page of the website. So I'll adjourn with one of my favorite segments on this podcast. I've missed it a bit. How about a list of some of my random thoughts? Or should I say ironies regarding the World Cup in soccer? How about this? I personally guarantee you, dear listener, Jehovah's Witnesses in those 239 lands they claim to be in, I guarantee you many of them are, oh wow, they're actually watching World Cup soccer and enjoying the hell out of it. Guarantee it. How about this? Soccer competition is apparently bad because of how people treat each other and the divisive hatred they mentioned. And it was done so by Jehovah's Witnesses, who daily shun their own family members. But again, please tell us how soccer brings out the worst in people, even as you shun children that you haven't seen in decades. How about this? They've run articles bashing the World Cup reaching back decades. I shared a few today. I thought this was a new article on the front page, but imagine my surprise when I found out that it was basically a cut and paste from an identical article that was on the same website in 2022. Not a lot of originality coming from heaven. They just cut and paste it. And then finally this. According to these guys, soccer, including a red card, which is pulled for misconduct and can lead to ejection as a player, is really bad. Soccer's bad, and so are red cards and kicking people off the team. It's all bad. It's filled with hatred. Well, however, when they issue their own version of a red card, they call it shunning or removal from the congregation. Well, it's totally okay. And they want you to know that they have the answers to uniting people. Oh, yes. The World Cup and the sport of soccer took center stage on the only website powered by Holy Spirit this past week. Nothing is off limits in proving that only the governing body of Jehovah's Witnesses have all the answers to the planet's woes. Imagine being the 4th of July holiday in the United States and you don't even get a mention in 2026 because you're trumped by the evils of World Cup soccer. Brace yourselves for the next round of spiritual food set to come out of New York, my friends. Here's what's on the horizon, if you ask me. I can't wait to see how Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce getting married somehow represented the harlot and the scarlet-colored wild beasts, or how renting out Madison Square Garden was Satan's latest effort to make people forget about Cedar Point, Ohio conventions. Or maybe how Burning Man in August is Satan once again trying to persuade the world into believing there really is a hell. Nothing's off limits. So stay tuned, people. The governing body is on a roll in 2026. But to repeat what Dr. Martin Luther King said at the outset, quote, "Nothing in this world is more dangerous than sincere ignorance and conscientious stupidity," end quote. Ah, yes, conscientious stupidity. The World Cup and soccer. We are all better people after this article. But again, somebody, anybody, check on Jesus in heaven. I'm guessing he gave up soccer with the apostles due to too many headers and maybe concussions. Thanks for being with me this week. I'm so bummed that Mexico was lost. I'm so bummed. Wherever you may be, go kick it and be well.